Close your eyes. The past is about to speak. When you think of the Harlem Renaissance, your mind might conjure a dazzling montage of pure, unfiltered glamour. You probably picture smoky jazz clubs, where brilliant musicians invent a new American sound on the spot. You see poets like Langston Hughes leaning against a bar, scribbling lines that would define a generation. You imagine elegant women in shimmering flapper dresses and men in sharp suits, dancing the Charleston with an infectious, carefree joy. It's a beautiful, romantic image of an artistic explosion, a non-stop party of creative genius. But that's the highlight reel, the polished version sold to tourists and history books. For the vast majority of people living in Harlem in the 1920s, life was a far cry from that sophisticated dream. It was a daily grind in a neighborhood bursting at the seams, a place of stark economic hardship where art was not a leisure activity, but a lifeline. Frankly, with your modern sensibilities, you probably wouldn't last a day in a Harlem Renaissance jazz club, let alone the tenement that came before it. I'd love to know where you're listening from tonight and what time it is in your corner of the world. Go ahead and post it in the comments below. We are a community of sleepless historians after all, and it's nice to know we are all in this together. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. Your day doesn't begin with a gentle alarm or the scent of brewing coffee. It starts with a sound. It's a low rumble that you feel in your bones before you even hear it. The vibration of the elevated train passing a block away. A mechanical beast shaking the very foundation of your building. This is your 7 in the morning. There is no snooze button. The city itself is your alarm clock, and it has no patience for your sleep. You lie still for a moment, letting consciousness seep back into your body. The mattress beneath you is thin and lumpy, filled not with memory foam but with tightly packed cotton that has, over the years, surrendered to the shape of countless other sleepers. It offers no real comfort, only a slight buffer against the hard metal springs of the bed frame. The blanket is a coarse, heavy wool, practical but scratchy against your skin. A persistent draft, a sliver of cold morning air, sneaks in through the window frame, which has long since warped and no longer sits flush against the wall. You open your eyes. The light in the room is a pale, watery gray, filtered through a single window clouded with the grime of coal smoke and city dust. Your view is not of a tree-lined street or a vibrant cityscape. Instead, you look directly into a narrow air shaft, a canyon of brick just a few feet from your own. Across this chasm, you see the identical window of your neighbor. A complex web of laundry lines crisscrosses the space, a few lonely garments hanging limp in the still, heavy air. This is the reality of the Great Migration, the historical wave that brought hundreds of thousands of black families, including yours, from the rural South to the promise of the North. You fled the crushing oppression of Jim Crow laws and the dead-end life of a sharecropper, only to find a different kind of confinement here. The sounds of the building are beginning to layer themselves over the fading rumble of the train. From the apartment above, you hear the heavy tread of footsteps pacing back and forth, the floorboards groaning in protest with each pass. Through the paper-thin walls to your left, a baby begins to cry, a sharp, piercing wail that seems to drill directly into your skull. On the right, a muffled argument is starting to brew, the angry, rhythmic cadence of the voices audible, though the specific words are lost in the plaster. There is no privacy here. Your life and the lives of everyone in this five-story walk-up are open books, whether you like it or not. There are no noise-canceling headphones to retreat into, no white noise machine to drown out the symphony of human struggle that surrounds you. You swing your legs over the side of the bed, your bare feet meeting the cold, rough wood of the floor. You can feel a fine layer of grit under your soles, a constant reminder of the coal that fuels the city and heats its buildings, a dust that settles on every surface. The air itself is thick, a dense tapestry of smells. There is the lingering scent of cabbage and fried pork from last night's dinner, not just from your own small kitchen, but from every kitchen on your floor, the odors mingling in the hallway and seeping under your door. Beneath that is the sharper, mineral smell of damp plaster and the ever-present hint of coal smoke. It's a smell of density, the smell of too many people living in too little space. You stand and stretch, your fingers brushing against the low ceiling. The paint is peeling near the corners, revealing a map of old water stains beneath. This building, like so many in Harlem, was not originally designed for families like yours. It was built decades earlier for a single, middle-class white family. But as demographics shifted, landlords saw an opportunity. They subdivided these grand old structures, carving large rooms into multiple tiny ones, installing flimsy new walls, and packing in as many tenants as possible. They charged black families significantly higher rent than they had charged the previous white tenants for the same, or often worse, subdivided spaces. It's a bitter irony. You pay more for less, a reality that gnaws at you every time the first of the month approaches. Historians still debate the precise mechanisms of this housing segregation, but for you, the result is simple: a constant, draining pressure. Your entire existence feels balanced on the edge of making rent. Looking around your small room, you see not a space for leisure, but a machine for living. Every object has a purpose. There is the bed, a small wooden wardrobe, a single straight-backed chair, and a small basin and pitcher for washing. There is no decoration, no art on the walls, no space for sentimentality. This is the unglamorous foundation upon which the Harlem Renaissance was built. It was not born in chic salons, but in overcrowded rooms like this one, fueled by the desperate, collective need to create something beautiful, something meaningful, in a world that offered so little of either. The poetry and the music were not distractions from this reality. They were a direct response to it. They were proof of a spirit that could not be contained by brick walls or crushed by economic hardship. And as you stand in the cold, gray light, you feel that spirit stirring within you, a quiet, resilient hum that harmonizes with the waking sounds of the city. It's the will to not just survive another day, but to make it count. You pour some cold water from the pitcher into the basin. It's bracing against your skin, a shock that fully wakes you. There's no hot water tap to turn, no instant comfort at your fingertips. Hot water is a luxury you have to earn. It means a trip down the hall to the shared kitchen, lighting the gas stove and waiting for a kettle to boil. This morning, you don't have the time or the energy. The cold water will have to do. As you wash your face, you glance at your reflection in the small, clouded mirror hanging from a nail on the wall. It's a fleeting, distorted image, a reminder that even seeing yourself clearly is not a given. Your home is what the landlords call a railroad flat. It's a term that sounds almost quaint, evoking images of adventure and travel. The reality is far more constricting. Your apartment is a series of small, windowless rooms arranged one after the other in a long, narrow line, like the cars of a train. To get from the front room to the back, you must walk through every room in between. This layout is a masterclass in the complete annihilation of privacy. Your bedroom, which is little more than an alcove, opens directly into the main living space, which in turn leads to the small area designated as a kitchen. The living area is dominated by a sturdy wooden table and 4 mismatched chairs. This is the heart of the home, where meals are eaten, where your younger siblings might attempt to do their schoolwork, where letters from relatives down south are read aloud, and where all family business is conducted. A single bare light bulb hangs from a cord in the center of the ceiling, casting a stark, yellow light that does little to dispel the gloom. During the day, you rely on whatever light filters in from the front window, which looks out onto the street, and the airshaft window at the back. It's never quite enough. The corners of the room are always steeped in shadow, repositories of dust and forgotten things. You walk through this space into the kitchen. It's a generous term for what is essentially a small nook. There's a cast iron sink with a single cold water faucet, a small icebox that requires a block of ice to be hauled up the stairs every few days, and a gas stove. This stove is both a blessing and a menace. It allows you to cook a hot meal, but it is also a source of constant low-grade anxiety. The gas lines in these old buildings are notoriously unreliable, and the smell of gas faintly leaking is a common, unsettling background scent. You are always careful to check the knobs, to make sure everything is tightly shut off. You've heard too many stories of fires and explosions in neighboring buildings to be anything but vigilant. The most glaring absence in your apartment is a bathroom. There is no toilet, no bathtub, no private space for personal hygiene. For that, you have to go out into the public hallway. There, you share a single toilet with the 4 other families on your floor. That's nearly 20 people relying on one facility. It's almost always occupied, and there is a perpetual queue in the mornings. The space is cramped, poorly ventilated, and rarely clean. It's a daily indignity, a constant reminder of your station. The idea of a long, hot shower is a fantasy as distant as owning your own home. You make do with the basin in your room, and once a week, a full-body wash using water heated on the stove. This lack of basic sanitation is a source of tension and illness. It's one of those relentless, grinding realities that the romantic histories of the jazz age conveniently omit. No one wrote poetry about waiting in line for the toilet. You open the icebox. Inside, there's a small bottle of milk, a slab of butter wrapped in wax paper, and some leftover grits from yesterday. Your diet is simple and repetitive, built on a foundation of affordability and sustenance. Cornmeal, rice, beans, and whatever cheap cuts of meat you can afford from the local butcher. The vibrant, complex flavors of what would come to be known as soul food are being born in kitchens like this, not out of a desire for culinary artistry, but out of the necessity of turning humble ingredients into something nourishing and flavorful. This is the real weird history food of the era, not exotic delicacies, but the ingenious ways people made do with what little they had. It is a cuisine of resilience. You decide to skip breakfast. Your stomach is a tight knot of nerves about the day ahead, and you'd rather save the food for later. Instead, you focus on getting dressed. Your clothes hang from a few hooks on the back of the door. There's your work uniform, a plain, durable dress for your job as a domestic worker, and your good clothes, reserved for church on Sunday or a special night out. You pull on your work dress. The fabric is stiff and utilitarian. It is not designed for comfort or for beauty, but for durability and for blending into the background of someone else's home. As you get ready, your mother is already up and moving in the kitchen, her presence a quiet, constant force. She is preparing breakfast for your younger siblings, who are still asleep in the small, curtained-off alcove that serves as their bedroom. She moves with an economy of motion honed by years of practice, navigating the cramped space without a single wasted step. Her face, illuminated by the gaslight, is a study in weary determination. She is the anchor of this family, the one who performs the 1,000 invisible tasks that keep your world from falling apart. She is the one who stretches the budget, mends the clothes, and soothes the fevers. She is the unsung poet of survival, her masterpiece a family that endures. You watch her for a moment, a silent exchange of understanding passing between you. There's no need for words. You both know the weight of the day that awaits. You both know the sacrifices being made. The Harlem Renaissance wasn't just built by the men on the bandstands and the writers in the cafes. It was built on the backs of women like your mother, on the wages of domestic workers like you, on the collective effort of an entire community striving for something more than just survival. It's a truth that often gets lost in the rhythm of the jazz and the cadence of the poetry. Before the art, there is the work. Before the glamour, there is the grind. And your day of grinding is about to begin. You grab your thin coat, give your mother a quick nod, and step out of the relative quiet of your apartment into the noisy, shared space of the hallway. The hallway is a different world, darker and more compressed than your apartment. The air is thick with the accumulated smells of every family on the floor, a confusing blend of frying bacon from one door, stale cigarette smoke from another, and the faint, sharp scent of disinfectant from the recently used toilet down the hall. The floorboards are bare and worn smooth by the passage of countless feet, and they creak under your weight, announcing your departure to the entire floor. You pass by your neighbors' doors, each one a portal to a life as complex and challenging as your own. You don't need to see inside to know the dramas unfolding. You hear them every day through the walls. You begin the descent down the 5 flights of stairs. There is no elevator, of course. The staircase is narrow and dimly lit by a single, low-wattage bulb on each landing, leaving the corners shrouded in a permanent twilight. The wooden banister is sticky to the touch, coated with years of grime that no amount of scrubbing can fully remove. You hold your skirt close to you as you walk, a small, almost unconscious gesture to keep it from brushing against the dirty walls. This daily journey up and down these stairs is a form of exercise, a vertical commute that leaves you slightly breathless by the time you reach the bottom. It's particularly grueling on the days you have to haul groceries or a heavy block of ice back up to the apartment. As you descend, the sounds of the building give way to the sounds of the street, growing louder with each flight. By the time you reach the ground floor and push open the heavy front door, the city hits you with its full force. The noise is a physical presence. It's not the singular roar of the elevated train anymore, but a complex, multi-layered composition of 100 different sources. The clatter of iron-shod horses pulling delivery wagons over cobblestones, the insistent ringing of a trolley car bell, the distant, mournful sound of a ship's horn from the Harlem River, the shouts of vendors selling their wares, and the chatter of people walking by. It's a relentless urban chorus, the soundtrack to your life. There are no quiet residential streets here. Commerce and domestic life are woven together in a chaotic, inseparable tangle. You join the river of people flowing along the sidewalk. This is the great misunderstanding about the Harlem Renaissance. The romantic image is of a neighborhood populated exclusively by artists, writers, and musicians. But those individuals, as vital as they were a tiny fraction of the population. The reality is that you are surrounded by a community of working people, men in durable overalls heading to the docks, to construction sites, or to jobs as railroad porters, one of the few stable, unionized jobs available to black men. You see women like yourself, dressed in the plain uniforms of domestic service, on their way to clean the homes and care for the children of wealthy white families in other parts of the city. Your commute is not a solitary affair in a private car. You walk, part of a great migration within the migration, a daily exodus of labor from Harlem. You are heading downtown. To get there, you must take the subway. You walk towards the station at 135th Street, the pavement beneath your feet uneven and cracked. You have to watch your step to avoid puddles of murky water and piles of refuse. Sanitation services are notoriously poor in Harlem compared to other, wealthier neighborhoods. It's another small, daily friction that wears you down, a reminder of the city's neglect. The crowd on the sidewalk is a microcosm of Harlem itself. You see the sharp-dressed man of leisure, who likely makes his money in the underground economy of numbers running or gambling. His confidence stride a stark contrast to the weary shuffle of the laborers around him. You see church ladies in their respectable hats, on their way to morning services or community meetings. You see children darting through the crowd, playing stickball in the street, their laughter a bright, sharp note in the general din. You pass by storefronts with hand-painted signs advertising barber shops, beauty parlors, funeral homes, and grocery stores. These businesses are the lifeblood of the community, owned and operated by black entrepreneurs who cater to the needs of their neighbors. You arrive at the subway station, a gaping mouth in the sidewalk leading down into the earth. You pay your 5 cents, a significant portion of your daily budget, and push through the turnstile. The platform is already packed, a dense mass of bodies waiting in the damp, subterranean air. The smell is a unique blend of stale air, hot metal, and the faint, sweet scent of chewing gum. There is no concept of personal space. You are pressed tightly against strangers, all of you bound together by the shared necessity of getting to work. There's a certain grim solidarity in this, a silent acknowledgement that you are all in the same boat, or rather, the same crowded train car. There are no online forums to complain about your commute, no apps to tell you when the next train is coming. You simply wait, your patience a muscle strengthened by daily exercise. When the train finally arrives, its arrival announced by a rush of wind and a screech of metal on metal, it is a chaotic scramble. People push from the platform to get on, while others push from inside the train to get off. You have to be assertive to find a small space and hold your ground, or you will be left behind. You manage to squeeze yourself into a car, finding a spot to stand, clutching a vertical pole for balance. The doors slide shut with a pneumatic sigh, and the train lurches forward, plunging you into the rumbling darkness of the tunnel. Inside the car, you are surrounded by a sea of faces. Most are black, your fellow Harlemites on their way to work. But as the train travels south, rattling and swaying its way down Manhattan, the demographics of the car begin to shift. At each stop, more white passengers get on. By the time you reach Midtown, you are in the minority. The subtle shift in dynamics is palpable. You feel yourself becoming more guarded, more invisible. Your goal is to get to your destination without drawing any attention to yourself. This daily journey is more than just a commute. It's a lesson in navigating the complex racial geography of the city. The Harlem Renaissance may be celebrated as a time of black pride and artistic expression, but for the working people who formed its backbone, it was also a time of daily, wearying negotiation with a world that was still deeply segregated and unequal. Your art is your resilience, but your job is what pays the rent, and that job exists far outside the celebrated borders of your neighborhood. The train screeches to your stop in a cacophony of metal and air brakes. You push your way out of the car, emerging from the dim, subterranean world of the subway into the different kind of chaos that is Midtown Manhattan. Here, the buildings are taller, casting long, sharp shadows that make the streets feel like canyons. The noise is more intense, a relentless barrage of automobile horns, the shouts of newsboys, and the distant, rhythmic pounding of construction. The air, if possible, is even thicker with exhaust fumes and the general grime of a city running at full throttle. You spend the next 8 hours in a world that is not your own. You are a ghost in someone else's life story. You move through the spacious, quiet rooms of a large apartment on Park Avenue, a place that is the polar opposite of your tenement flat. Here the floors are polished hardwood, covered with plush oriental rugs. The walls are smooth plaster, adorned with framed paintings. There is a bathroom for every bedroom, with gleaming porcelain fixtures and an endless supply of hot water. The silence is the most striking difference. It is a wealthy, curated silence, broken only by the ticking of a grandfather clock in the hall or the polite, muffled sounds of the family who employs you. Your work is a series of repetitive, physically demanding tasks. You scrub floors, dust furniture, wash clothes by hand, and cook meals in a kitchen that is larger than your entire apartment. You are expected to be efficient, thorough, and above all, invisible. You speak only when spoken to. You eat your simple lunch in the kitchen, separate from the family. The money you earn is essential for your family's survival, but the work itself slowly chips away at your spirit. It's a daily exercise in suppressing your own personality, in becoming a functional object in someone else's home. This is the economic engine that powers so many Harlem households, a reality that is often glossed over. The singers and dancers in the jazz clubs at night are often the maids and janitors during the day. Finally, your workday ends. You make the journey back north, a reverse migration. As the subway carries you back towards Harlem, you feel the tension in your shoulders begin to ease. The moment you step out of the station at 135th Street, you can breathe again. It's not that the air is cleaner, it isn't, but it's your air. The noise is your noise. You are no longer a ghost, you are home. The streets in the early evening have a different energy than in the morning. The workday is over for most, and a current of restless social energy is beginning to flow. People are not just rushing to or from work, they are living. The sidewalks become an extension of the cramped apartments, a vast, open-air living room for the entire community. You see people gathered on their front stoops, the iconic stoop life of Harlem. They are catching up on the day's news, exchanging gossip, watching their children play, and simply enjoying a moment of rest before the evening begins. It's a form of social connection that has been lost in modern, more isolated ways of living. There's no scrolling through social media to see what your friends are up to. You just walk outside. The street vendors are out in full force. You can smell the tantalizing aroma of roasted peanuts and sweet potatoes cooking over charcoal braziers. You see pushcarts laden with fresh produce. The bright colors a welcome contrast to the gray and brown of the buildings. A man with a cart is selling fried fish sandwiches, a cheap and delicious meal that you might treat yourself to on a good day. The air is filled with a symphony of voices, people calling out to friends across the street, the rhythmic, persuasive patter of a street preacher on a soapbox, and the ubiquitous sound of music. Music is everywhere. It spills out of the open windows of apartments, a scratchy phonograph record playing the latest blues hit. It comes from the doorways of barbershops and social clubs. Sometimes, a group of men will gather on a street corner and sing in close harmony, their voices blending together in a sound that is both mournful and hopeful. This is the raw material of the Harlem Renaissance, the everyday musicality of a community that used sound to express its joys, its sorrows, and its enduring spirit. Historians can document the famous composers and performers, but they can only speculate about the vast, unrecorded ocean of music that filled the streets every single day. This constant, informal soundtrack is the heartbeat of the neighborhood. You walk past a group of men engaged in a heated game of checkers on a makeshift board set up on a crate. Their arguments and laughter are a familiar part of the evening landscape. Nearby, a group of women are talking, their heads closed together, sharing stories and advice. This is how community is built, not in formal meetings, but in these small, everyday interactions. It's a network of support, a way of coping with the shared struggles of life in this place. If you are sick, your neighbor will bring you soup. If you are short on rent, your church will take up a collection. There is a deep, unspoken understanding of mutual reliance. As the sun begins to set, the sky above the tenements glows a dusty orange. The streetlights flicker on, casting pools of yellow light on the sidewalks. The energy of the neighborhood begins to shift again. The children are called inside, and the adults begin to think about the night ahead. For many, like you, the night offers a release from the drudgery of the day. It's a time for socializing, for forgetting your troubles, for feeling truly alive. And tonight, there is a special occasion. It's not a glamorous night at a famous club. It's something far more vital, more essential to the fabric of your life here. Tonight is the night of a rent party, and you have to be there. It's not just a social obligation, it's an act of collective survival. The rent party is not an invention of leisure. It's an invention of economic desperation, a uniquely Harlem solution to a relentless problem. The concept is simple and brilliant. Your friend who lives just a few blocks away is short on the money for rent. The landlord is not a patient man. Eviction is a constant, looming threat that hangs over everyone in the neighborhood. So instead of facing this crisis alone, your friend and their family have decided to throw a party. They will clear out the furniture from their small railroad flat, hire a musician, or persuade a talented friend to play for free, and cook up a big pot of fried chicken or fish. Then they will open their doors and charge a small admission fee, perhaps 25 cents. This isn't about making a profit. It's about community-based crowdfunding, 1920s style. The money collected at the door will, hopefully, be enough to cover the shortfall and pay the landlord, ensuring the family has a roof over their heads for another month. It's a recurring cycle. Next month, it might be another friend, or even your own family, hosting a similar gathering. These parties are sometimes called house rent stomps or skid scats, names that capture their raw, energetic, and slightly illicit nature. They are advertised not with printed flyers, but with small cards passed hand to hand or simply by word of mouth, which spreads like wildfire through the tight-knit community. For you, attending this party is a dual act. It is, on one hand, an act of solidarity. You are contributing your quarter to help your friends survive. It is a social obligation, a vital thread in the web of mutual support that holds the neighborhood together. On the other hand, it is also your entertainment for the week. A night out at one of the famous jazz clubs like the Cotton Club or Small's Paradise is financially out of reach for most working people like you. Those places cater to wealthy white tourists or the small black elite. A rent party is where you can hear incredible music, dance, and socialize for the price of a subway fare. The music at these parties is often the main draw. It's here in these overcrowded, stuffy living rooms that much of the innovation in jazz piano was happening. A style known as Harlem stride was born and perfected at these gatherings. Pianists were the stars of the rent party circuit. They had to be loud enough to be heard over the noise of 100 people talking and dancing. And they had to be entertaining enough to keep the party going all night long. They developed a powerful, percussive style. With their left hand, striding up and down the keyboard, playing a steady, swinging rhythm of bass notes and chords, while their right hand flew across the upper keys, playing dazzling, intricate melodies. These pianists were local heroes, figures like James P. Johnson, Willie the Lion Smith, and the young, prodigiously talented Thomas Fats Waller. They would often engage in cutting contests, marathon piano battles where they would try to outplay each other, showing off their speed, their creativity, and their endurance. For the price of admission, you get to witness a level of musical genius that would later be celebrated on concert stages around the world. There's no stage, no spotlights, just a pianist hunched over an old, beat-up upright piano in the corner of a room, sweat dripping from his brow, pouring all of his energy and soul into the music. It's raw, immediate, and utterly captivating. But before you can go to the party, you must get ready. This ritual of preparation is as important as the event itself. You return to your apartment, where the evening meal is a simple affair of leftovers from the night before. After eating, you retreat to your small corner of the apartment to begin the transformation. Style is not just vanity. It is a form of armor and a statement of self-respect. In a world that constantly tries to diminish you, to render you invisible or reduce you to a stereotype, the way you present yourself is an act of defiance. It's a way of saying, I may clean your floors during the day, but tonight I am my own person. I have dignity. I have style. You wash yourself as best you can with the basin of warm water your mother has heated for you. You carefully apply a little makeup, maybe a touch of powder and some lipstick, purchased with carefully saved pennies. Then you turn to your clothes. You take out your good dress from the wardrobe. It's not a fancy designer gown, but it's yours. Perhaps it's a simple cotton dress that you've altered yourself, adding a bit of lace trim or a new collar to make it more fashionable. Or maybe you saved for months to buy it from one of the department stores on 125th Street. You handle it with care, making sure it is clean and pressed. The act of putting on this dress is a way of shedding the drudgery of your work uniform and stepping into a different version of yourself. You pay close attention to your hair, another crucial element of your presentation. The beauty parlors of Harlem, many of them run by pioneering female entrepreneurs like Madam C.J. Walker, are central institutions in the community. They are not just places to get your hair done. They are social hubs, spaces where women can talk freely and build networks. For tonight, you've styled your own hair, perhaps pressing it or arranging it in the popular bobbed style of the era. This whole process takes time and care. It's performed in a cramped space, with poor lighting and a cloudy mirror. There's no walk-in closet, no vanity table laden with products. It is an act of creativity and ingenuity, using limited resources to achieve a look that makes you feel confident and proud. This emphasis on style, on stepping out, is a recurring theme in the literature and art of the Harlem Renaissance. It was a visual manifestation of the new Negro consciousness, a sense of racial pride, self-determination, and a refusal to be defined by the old stereotypes. For you, it's simpler than that. It's about feeling human, feeling beautiful, and being ready to claim a few hours of joy in a life that is often defined by hardship. Once you are ready, you look at your reflection, a person transformed, ready for the night. Now you are ready. You step out of your building and back into the Harlem night. The air is cooler now, and the street scene has evolved once more. The chaotic energy of the early evening has mellowed into a smoother, more anticipatory rhythm. The stoops are still occupied, but the conversations are quieter, more intimate. The dominant sound is now music, a tapestry of blues and jazz that seems to bleed from every open doorway, every second-story window. It's the city's collective heartbeat, a slow, steady swing that invites you to move with it. You begin your walk to the party. Your journey takes you through the heart of the neighborhood, a landscape of brick and brownstone that is both familiar and, at night, subtly transformed. The dim streetlights create long, dancing shadows, turning ordinary alleyways into mysterious passages. You walk with a sense of purpose and confidence. This is your territory, unlike your commute downtown, where you felt the need to be guarded and invisible. Here you are seen and acknowledged. You exchange nods and greetings with people you pass, a silent language of community that affirms your belonging. Your path takes you along 7th Avenue, the grand boulevard of Harlem, also known as the Stroll. This is the neighborhood's main artery, a wide avenue lined with theaters, shops, and social clubs. At this hour, it is a parade of style. You see couples walking arm in arm, dressed in their finest evening attire. The men are in sharp suits, some sporting fashionable fedoras. Their shoes shine to a high gloss. The women are in elegant dresses, their hair impeccably styled, their laughter echoing in the night air. This isn't the desperate, frantic energy of the downtown entertainment districts. It's a more measured, self-aware promenade. People are here not just to go somewhere, but to be seen, to be part of the vibrant, moving spectacle of Harlem nightlife. You marvel at the sheer variety of style on display. It's a powerful visual statement against the drab uniformity of poverty. You see the influence of the dandy, or the sheik, a popular figure of the era who expressed his individuality through flamboyant, perfectly tailored clothes. You also see the more conservative, church-going folks, their dress a statement of respectability and moral rectitude. And then there are the young people like yourself, embracing the latest trends, shorter hemlines for women, looser-fitting suits for men, a quiet rebellion against the more staid conventions of their parents' generation. Historians often discuss the literary and political currents of the Harlem Renaissance, but the fashion was a text in itself, a visual language of aspiration, identity, and pride that was legible to everyone on the street. As you continue your walk, you pass by some of the legendary landmarks of the era. You see the glowing marquee of the Lafayette Theater, one of the first major theaters in the country to desegregate, a place where black audiences could see top-tier black performers. You walk past the site of the Tree of Hope, a legendary elm tree that stood on the corner of 7th Avenue and 131st Street. It was considered a good luck charm for actors and musicians who would touch its trunk before auditions or performances. Its presence was a piece of local folklore, a tangible symbol of the community's hopes and dreams. The party is in a tenement building much like your own, located on a side street off the main thoroughfare. As you get closer, You can hear the unmistakable sound that tells you you've found the right place, the powerful, rhythmic pulse of a stride piano. The sound is a magnet drawing you in. It's not just music, it's an invitation, a promise of energy and release. You can feel the bass notes vibrating through the soles of your shoes as you walk up the front stoop. You enter the building and climb the stairs. The sound of the piano gets louder with each flight, joined now by the sound of laughter, loud talking, and the rhythmic shuffle of dancing feet. The air in the stairwell grows warmer and more humid, thick with the scent of perfume, sweat, and frying food. When you reach the correct floor, the apartment door is propped open. You stand at the threshold for a moment, taking in the scene. The small apartment has been completely transformed. The furniture has been pushed up against the walls or removed entirely to create a makeshift dance floor in the center of the main room. The space is packed with people, a swirling, joyous mass of bodies. The light is dim, provided by a few low-wattage bulbs covered with colored scarves, creating a warm, intimate glow. It's hot and stuffy, the air thick and heavy, but no one seems to mind. The energy in the room is electric. Someone is standing by the door, collecting the admission fees in a small bowl. You drop your quarter in, your contribution to the cause. Your friend, the host of the party, sees you and waves, a look of gratitude and relief on their face. The bowl looks promisingly full. For tonight, at least, the crisis of rent has been averted. Now, having fulfilled your duty, you are free to join the celebration. You are not just an observer of the Harlem Renaissance. You are a participant, a co-creator of its nightly ritual of survival and joy. The night is young, and the music is calling to you. You squeeze your way into the crowded room, the heat and sound enveloping you completely. This is the immersive, sensory reality of a rent party, a world away from the detached, sanitized portrayals you might see in a movie. The floorboards beneath your feet are bouncing in time with the music and the dancers, making the entire apartment feel like a living, breathing organism. The air is a potent cocktail of smells. The sharp, sweet scent of perfume mingling with the salty aroma of sweat, the rich smell of fried chicken wafting from the kitchen, and the faint, ever-present hint of bathtub gin. You navigate through the throng, excusing yourself as you gently push past dancing couples and clusters of people deep in conversation. Your first destination is the kitchen, the party's social and culinary hub. Here, your friend's mother or aunt is presiding over a large cast-iron skillet on the stove, expertly frying pieces of chicken to a perfect golden brown. Plates of food are for sale for a few cents: a piece of chicken, a scoop of potato salad, a slice of cornbread. This is another small revenue stream to help with the rent, and it's also what fuels the dancers through the long night. This is the authentic taste of Harlem nightlife, the real, weird history food of the era, born from necessity and perfected in these very kitchens. You buy a plate, the warmth of the paper plate seeping into your hands. You find a relatively quiet corner to stand and eat, observing the scene. This is where you can truly appreciate the social function of the party. It's a cross-section of the community. You see your neighbors, your coworkers, and people you only know by sight from the street. You see the strivers, the ambitious young people determined to make a name for themselves, engaged in animated conversation. You also see the older folks, content to sit on the sidelines, tapping their feet and enjoying the music, their presence a comforting, steadying influence. The room is a vibrant tapestry of human connection. There are no smartphones to distract people, no screens to stare at. Everyone is present in the moment, engaged with the people around them. Conversations are shouted over the music, punctuated by bursts of laughter. It's a place for networking, for finding out about job opportunities, for making romantic connections, and for simply reinforcing the bonds of community. This is where the social fabric of Harlem is woven, one party, one conversation at a time. It's a powerful antidote to the alienation and hardship of daily life. For a few hours in this hot, crowded room, you are not just a collection of individuals struggling to survive. You are a community celebrating its own resilience. So before this great story continues, please take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you're enjoying our journey together. Your support means the world. Let the past sing you to sleep. Your attention is inevitably drawn back to the music. In the corner, the pianist is a force of nature. He is not just playing the piano, he is wrestling with it, commanding it, making it sing and shout. His left hand is a blur, hammering out the relentless, swinging rhythm of the stride bass line. It's a physical, athletic feat, providing the foundation for the entire party. His right hand dances across the keys with breathtaking speed and inventiveness, reeling off dazzling melodic runs, complex harmonies, and playful improvisations. He is a one-man orchestra, and his energy is infectious. You watch his face, contorted in concentration and joy, sweat beading on his forehead. He is completely lost in the music, channeling the energy of the room and giving it back, amplified and transformed. This is the incubator of jazz. There's a direct, visceral connection between the musician and the dancers that you would never find in a formal concert hall. The pianist responds to the energy of the dancers, and the dancers, in turn, are inspired by his improvisations. It's a dynamic, collaborative creation, a conversation between the music and the movement. Scholars still argue about the precise origins of the stride piano style, tracing its roots to ragtime and the blues. But here, in this room, you are not concerned with academic debates. You are witnessing its living, breathing reality. You are hearing a musical language being invented on the spot, a sound that perfectly captures the frantic, energetic, and ultimately hopeful spirit of modern urban life. It's a sound that could only have been born in a place like this, at a time like this. After you finish your food, you put your plate aside and allow yourself to be drawn closer to the dance floor. The music is too compelling to resist. You feel the rhythm in your bones, a primal urge to move. Someone catches your eye, a young man with a confident smile. He nods towards the dance floor, an unspoken invitation. You smile back and let him lead you into the swirling mass of dancers. The night is no longer something to be observed. It is something to be experienced. And in the heart of a Harlem rent party, experience means moving your feet. The close-back space means there is no room for the formal, choreographed dances of another era. This is close contact, improvisational dancing. You move together, feeling the rhythm, responding to the subtle shifts in the music and to each other's movements. It's a release, a pure physical expression of joy. For these few minutes, you are not a domestic worker, not a resident of a cramped tenement. You are just a body in motion, alive and free, part of a collective celebration. The worries of the world, the rent, the job, the daily injustices, dissolve in the heat and the sweat and the relentless, glorious sound of the piano. This moment of transcendence is what the party is all about. It's the fuel that will get you through the rest of the week. A reminder that even in the most difficult of circumstances, there is still room for beauty, for connection, and for joy. As the night wears on, the energy in the apartment doesn't fade. It intensifies. The air grows thick and hazy with a faint layer of cigarette smoke, which catches the dim light and makes the room feel even more intimate and secretive. This is a true speakeasy, not in the sense of a hidden bar with a secret password, but in its fundamental illegality and its defiance of mainstream norms. The gathering itself is unsanctioned, and more importantly, the alcohol being served is a product of prohibition. In the kitchen, alongside the fried chicken, another, more illicit transaction is taking place. For a few more cents, you can get a small glass of bathtub gin or homemade corn liquor. There are no fancy cocktails here, no skilled bartenders. The drink is served straight in whatever glasses or cups are available. You decide to try some. The gin is harsh and raw, with a powerful chemical burn that makes your eyes water. It tastes nothing like the carefully distilled, botanical-infused gins of the modern era. This is a crude, potent spirit, often made in dangerous, unsanitary conditions. Drinking it is a gamble. You've heard the stories. The batches that were tainted with industrial alcohol, causing blindness or even death. It's a stark reminder of the risks people were willing to take for a moment of release. This is the unglamorous reality behind the roaring 20s stereotype. For every flapper sipping a sophisticated cocktail in a high-end club, there were 1,000 people like you, drinking cheap, dangerous liquor in a crowded kitchen, hoping for the best. Yet, despite the risk, the alcohol serves its purpose. It loosens inhibitions, fuels conversations, and adds to the general sense of giddy abandon. It's a social lubricant that helps to melt away the cares of the outside world. You take your glass and find a spot near a window, cracking it open a sliver to get a breath of cooler night air. From here, you have a good vantage point to observe the heart of the party, the music. The first pianist, exhausted after a long and heroic set, has finally relinquished his seat. Another player has taken his place. This is the cutting contest you've heard so much about. It's not an official competition, but an informal battle for bragging rights and neighborhood prestige. The new pianist has a different style. Where the first was all percussive power and rhythmic drive, this one is more lyrical and harmonically complex. His right hand weaves intricate, almost classical-sounding patterns over the steady stride of his left. The crowd roars its approval. This is not passive listening. The audience is a crucial participant, its reactions guiding and encouraging the musicians. They are connoisseurs, able to recognize and appreciate the subtle differences in style and technique. They are witnessing the rapid evolution of a new art form in real time. You see a young woman near the piano, her eyes closed, completely absorbed in the music. She might be one of the aspiring poets or writers of the neighborhood. Perhaps she is hearing in these complex rhythms and melodies a new kind of poetry, a new way of expressing the Black experience that cannot be captured in words alone. The music of the Harlem Renaissance was not just background noise for the literary movement. It was its soundtrack, its inspiration, and in many ways its most powerful and universal expression. The writers sought to capture the spirit of the new Negro in verse and prose, but the musicians were already doing it every night in places like this. The party is a microcosm of the creative energy pulsating through Harlem. It's a place where different art forms and different social classes intersect. You might see a university-educated intellectual like W.E.B. Du Bois or Alain Locke in a more formal salon. But here, at a rent party, the lines are blurred. A talented pianist who drives a delivery truck by day shares the same space as a postal worker who writes poetry in his spare time. A domestic worker like you dances with a man who might be a future labor organizer. This fertile, democratic mixing of people is what made Harlem such a dynamic and creative place. Ideas and influences were not confined to elite circles. They were exchanged on the street, in the barber shops, and most vividly here, in the crucible of the house rent stomp. As you sip your harsh gin and listen to the piano, you feel a profound sense of belonging. This is more than just a party. It's a sanctuary. It's a space created by the community, for the community, where you can be your authentic self, free from the judgmental gaze of the outside world. Here you are not defined by your job or your income. You are defined by your style, your dance moves, your ability to hold a conversation, your appreciation for the music. It's a temporary autonomous zone, a fleeting utopia built on rhythm, sweat, and shared struggle. The sheer physical endurance required to participate is remarkable. There are no comfortable chairs to retreat to, no quiet rooms for a break. You are on your feet for hours, fueled by fried chicken, cheap gin, and the relentless energy of the music. It's a testament to the human need for celebration, the powerful drive to carve out moments of joy even in the most challenging of circumstances. People didn't just endure the hardships of life in 1920s Harlem. They actively created their own culture, their own rituals, their own sources of meaning and pleasure. The rent party is the ultimate symbol of this creative resilience. It's a perfect synthesis of economic necessity and artistic expression, a place where survival and celebration become one and the same. And the night is far from over. The night deepens, and the music continues its relentless, joyful assault. The cutting contest at the piano is in full swing, a dazzling display of virtuosity. But now, a new sound begins to weave its way into the sonic tapestry. Someone has brought a cornet, and another guest has unpacked a clarinet from a worn leather case. An impromptu jam session is starting to form. This is how the music evolves, not in sterile practice rooms or formal conservatories, but in the heat of the moment in a crowded living room. The cornet player may be a guy who plays in a marching band for his day job, blows a simple, bluesy phrase over the pianist's rhythm. The clarinetist answers with a soaring, liquid run of notes. They begin a musical conversation, a call and response that is the fundamental building block of jazz. They are listening to each other intently, reacting, improvising, and collectively building something new. You are witnessing the birth of a revolutionary sound. This is not the polite, written-out music of the downtown ballrooms. This is folk music in the truest sense, music of the people for the people. It's raw, emotional, and deeply personal. The horn players don't just play the notes. They bend them, growl them, and shape them to express a range of emotions that written music could never capture. The cornet wails with a human-like cry, and the clarinet laughs with a joyful, bubbling sound. It's a sound that is both ancient and modern. You can hear the echoes of the spirituals and work songs of the South in the soulful, blues-inflected melodies. You can hear the syncopated rhythms of ragtime in the piano, but it's all fused together into something new, something that speaks to the frantic, chaotic, and exhilarating experience of life in the modern industrial city. It's the sound of the elevated train, the rhythm of the factory, and the cry of the blues, all rolled into one. It's the sound of Black America forging a new identity in the urban North. The dancers respond to this new, richer sound with even greater energy. The simple shuffling gives way to more expressive, athletic moves. You are seeing the very beginnings of what will become the Lindy Hop, a dance that will take the world by storm in the coming years. It's a dance of explosive, breakaway movements, where partners separate and improvise their own steps before coming back together. It's a physical manifestation of the freedom and individualism at the heart of the music. You stand mesmerized, watching the interplay between the musicians. There is no sheet music, no conductor. The only leader is the shared rhythm, the collective groove that they all feel. This level of improvisation requires an incredible amount of skill and a deep, intuitive understanding of music. It also requires trust. Each musician has to trust that the others will be there to support them, to catch them if they fall, to answer their musical questions. It's a perfect metaphor for the community itself, a group of individuals, each with their own unique voice, coming together to create something beautiful and resilient. This small, informal jam session is a stark contrast to the highly produced and commercialized jazz that is becoming popular with white audiences downtown. This is the authentic, undiluted source. While famous band leaders like Paul Whiteman were being crowned the king of jazz for playing a symphonic, watered-down version of the music, the real innovation was happening here, in Harlem, in rooms just like this one. It's a classic pattern in American cultural history. The innovations of black artists being packaged and sold to the mainstream, often with the original creators being erased from the story. But tonight, you are at the source. You are not a tourist consuming a product. You are a participant in a living culture. The music is not for sale, at least not in this form. It is a gift, a shared experience. The musicians are not playing for fame or fortune. They are playing for the love of the music, for the approval of their peers, and for the sheer joy of creation. They are playing to make the dancers move, to make the room come alive, to chase away the ghosts of the long work week. The cornet player takes a solo. He closes his eyes, his cheeks puffing out as he pours all of his breath and soul into his instrument. He's not just playing a melody, he's telling a story. It's a story of struggle and hope, of pain and joy. It's a story that everyone in the room understands without needing a single word. It's the story of their collective experience, translated into the universal language of music. You feel a powerful wave of emotion wash over you, pride, sadness, and an overwhelming sense of connection to these people, to this place, to this sound. This is the real Harlem Renaissance. It's not a static collection of poems and paintings in a museum. It's a living, breathing, sweating, and noisy cultural explosion. It's the sound of a community finding its voice, a voice that is complex, defiant, and profoundly human. And you are here, a witness and a participant, caught in the beautiful, chaotic storm of its creation. The memory of this sound, of this feeling, will stay with you long after the night is over. It will be a source of strength and inspiration, a reminder of the incredible creative power that can be unleashed even in the most unlikely of circumstances. The sound of a revolution isn't always a political speech. Sometimes it's the wail of a cornet in a crowded room. While the rent party represents the heart of Harlem's grassroots culture, you are also aware of another, more famous side of the neighborhood's nightlife. Your friend, who has a bit more disposable income from a job as a waiter, sometimes tells you stories about the legendary Cotton Club. It's a name that is whispered with a mixture of pride, curiosity, and resentment. The Cotton Club is the most famous jazz club in Harlem, perhaps in the whole world. But it's a place that you, and most of the people at this rent party, will never enter. The Cotton Club, located on Lenox Avenue and 142nd Street, operates on a strict and deeply ironic policy. It features the most brilliant black performers of the day, but it caters exclusively to a wealthy white audience. Black patrons are not allowed in, except for the very few who are celebrities in their own right. It is a Jim Crow institution in the heart of a black neighborhood, a whites-only, plantation-themed fantasy where downtown tourists could come to experience the exotic and primitive thrill of black culture from a safe, segregated distance. The club's decor reinforces this theme. The stage is designed to look like the veranda of a southern plantation mansion, and the interiors are decorated with murals depicting stereotypical scenes of life in the Old South. The light-skinned black women who work as dancers, the famous Cotton Club girls, are selected for their height and their skin tone, which has to be lighter than a paper bag. The entire enterprise is a masterclass in the commercial exploitation of black talent for the entertainment of a white clientele that would never accept those same performers as equals outside the club's walls. The contradiction is staggering, and it's a source of constant debate and frustration in the community. On one hand, the Cotton Club provides a high-paying, high-profile stage for incredible artists. The house band is led by the suave and brilliant Duke Ellington, whose orchestra is developing a sophisticated, complex sound that will redefine jazz. Performers like Cab Calloway, with his charismatic energy and Heidi Ho catchphrase, will become national stars from this stage. It's a platform that launches careers and broadcasts the sound of Harlem across the country via radio broadcasts. This is a source of immense pride. Duke Ellington is a hero, a symbol of black genius and elegance. On the other hand, the club is a painful, daily reminder of the pervasive racism that even the most talented black artists cannot escape. It's a place that profits from black creativity while denying black people access to it. It colonizes a piece of Harlem, turning it into a tourist zoo. Historians and critics continue to grapple with the legacy of the Cotton Club. Was it a necessary evil, a pragmatic compromise that allowed black artists to achieve mainstream success in a racist society? Or was it a site of profound cultural betrayal and exploitation? For you, the debate is less academic. It's a place a few blocks away that is world famous for the music of your people, and you are not welcome there. Your friend tells you about the inside. He describes the opulence, the waiters in tuxedos, the tables covered in white linen, the expensive food and drink. He talks about the elaborate floor shows, with their feathered costumes and precisely choreographed dance numbers, a far cry from the spontaneous, raw energy of the rent party. He describes the sound of Ellington's orchestra, a polished, powerful machine with its intricate arrangements and brilliant soloists. It sounds like a different world, a glamorous but sterile bubble, completely detached from the vibrant, messy reality of the streets outside. You contrast this image with the scene around you. Here, in this crowded apartment, there is no artifice. The joy is real, the sweat is real, the struggle is real. The music is not a product to be consumed by outsiders. It is the lifeblood of the community. The musicians at the rent party may not have the fame or the income of Duke Ellington, but they have a different kind of freedom. They can play what they want, for as long as they want, for an audience that understands them, that is part of them. There is an authenticity here that no amount of money could buy. The existence of places like the Cotton Club highlights the complex class and color dynamics within Harlem itself. While segregation from white society was the primary reality, there were also internal divisions. There was a small but influential black elite, doctors, lawyers, intellectuals, and business owners, who had their own social clubs and events, which were often inaccessible to the working class majority. There were also tensions based on skin tone, a painful legacy of slavery, where lighter-skinned individuals were sometimes afforded privileges denied to those with darker skin. The Cotton Club's hiring practices for its dancers are a blatant example of this intraracial prejudice. So while you might feel a flicker of curiosity about the forbidden world of the Cotton Club, you feel no real desire to be there. Your place is here in this hot, noisy room among your own people. This is where the real culture is being made, not for an audience of tourists, but for yourselves. The rent party is not a performance of blackness. It is the lived experience of it. It is a space of self-determination, a declaration that you don't need the approval or the money of the outside world to create something beautiful and meaningful. As the jam session at the party reaches a new peak of intensity, the clarinetist and the cornet player trading phrases with dizzying speed, you feel a surge of defiant pride. Let the tourists have their sanitized floor show. You have this. You have the real thing. You have the sound of your community, raw, unfiltered, and glorious. And in this moment, you wouldn't trade it for anything in the world. The echoes of the past, whispered for your rest, are not always gentle. Sometimes they are the defiant sound of a community choosing to celebrate itself, on its own terms, behind closed doors. The party rages on, a marathon of music and motion, but even the most energetic celebration requires sustenance. You find yourself drawn back towards the kitchen, not just by hunger, but by the comforting, familiar smells that have been the backdrop to the entire evening. The food and drink at a Harlem rent party are as essential to the experience as the music, providing a tangible taste of the community's culture and ingenuity. The centerpiece of the culinary offerings is, of course, the fried chicken. It's not the fast food variety of the modern world, but a dish prepared with time, care, and a recipe likely passed down through generations. The chicken is seasoned aggressively, coated in flour, and fried in a deep, heavy cast iron skillet filled with shimmering lard. The result is a piece of chicken with a shatteringly crisp, flavorful crust that gives way to moist, tender meat. It's a simple dish, but achieving this level of perfection in a crowded, makeshift kitchen is a form of artistry in itself. Alongside the chicken, there are other staples of what would come to be known as soul food. There's a large bowl of potato salad, creamy and tangy, studded with bits of celery and onion. There are collard greens, simmered for hours with a piece of smoked ham hock until they are meltingly tender. Their rich, savory pot liquor a delicacy in its own right. There might be a pan of baked macaroni and cheese, a far cry from the boxed version, with a thick, sharp cheese sauce and a crispy, brown top. And of course, there is cornbread, baked in a skillet with a crunchy crust and a moist, crumbly interior. This is not health food. It is survival food. It is rich, fatty, and filling, designed to provide the maximum amount of energy and comfort for the minimum cost. These recipes were born in the rural South, created by enslaved people and sharecroppers who had to use their creativity to make delicious and nourishing meals from undesirable cuts of meat, humble vegetables, and basic starches. In Harlem, these culinary traditions were preserved and adapted, becoming a powerful link to a shared heritage and a source of comfort in a new, often hostile urban environment. Eating this food is an act of remembrance, a way of tasting your history. You buy another piece of chicken and a slice of cornbread. The simple, satisfying flavors a welcome anchor in the swirling chaos of the party. As you eat, you watch the interactions around the makeshift bar, a plank of wood laid across two crates in the corner of the kitchen. Here, the bathtub gin is still flowing, but there might also be other offerings. Someone might have brought a few bottles of beer, or perhaps there's a jug of homemade wine. The most sought-after drink, however, is whiskey. Not the harsh, dangerous corn liquor made in a local still, but real, aged whiskey, smuggled into the country from Canada or from ships offshore. Obtaining this is a risky and expensive proposition, the work of organized bootleggers and rum runners. A small glass of genuine whiskey is a luxury, a taste of the high life that is usually out of reach. It's smoother and more complex than the gin, a brief, warm respite from the harsh realities of prohibition. There are no Yelp reviews for this questionable tavern stew, no health inspector to certify the kitchen. You are putting your trust in the community. You trust that the person who made the gin knew what they were doing, that the person who cooked the chicken kept their kitchen clean. It's a system based on personal reputation and mutual reliance, a world away from the anonymous, regulated transactions of modern life. Beyond the food at the party, Harlem itself is a landscape of unique culinary experiences. During the day, street vendors are everywhere. You can buy a hot sausage sandwich, roasted peanuts, or a sweet potato pie from a cart on the corner. For a more substantial meal, there are countless small, family-run restaurants and lunch counters serving up the same kind of soulful food you're eating tonight. These places are community hubs where you can get a hot, affordable meal and catch up on the neighborhood news. There are also more upscale restaurants catering to the black middle class, places where you might go for a special occasion like a birthday or an anniversary. And then there are the bufferees, a uniquely Harlem institution. These were small, often narrow eateries, sometimes located in the basement of a building, that were open all night long. They served cheap, simple food to the musicians, performers, and party-goers of the neighborhood after the clubs and rent parties wound down. They were the essential after-hours spots, places where you could get a plate of eggs and bacon, or a bowl of chili at 4 in the morning, rubbing elbows with the very musicians you had just been listening to. As you finish your food, you feel a renewed sense of energy. The combination of the hearty meal and the intoxicating music creates a feeling of profound well-being. It's a feeling of being completely nourished, both physically and spiritually. The food is a testament to the resilience and creativity of a people who could take the humblest of ingredients and transform them into a feast. It's a culture that knows how to celebrate, how to find joy and abundance even in the midst of scarcity. The taste of the fried chicken, the sound of the stride piano, the heat of the crowded room, it all blends together into a single, powerful experience. This is the flavor of the Harlem Renaissance, and it's a taste you will never forget. As the hours melt away, you decide to take a brief respite from the exhilarating crush of the party. You find your way to the front room of the railroad flat, the one with a window overlooking the street. This room is the farthest from the music, and while it's by no means quiet, the sound is muffled enough to allow for conversation at a normal volume. A few other people have had the same idea. They are sitting on the floor, leaning against the walls or perched on the windowsill, engaged in quiet, intense discussion. You recognize one of the men holding court. He's a regular at the local branch of the public library, always surrounded by a stack of books. He's a follower of the socialist writer and activist Hubert Harrison, a brilliant intellectual known as the father of Harlem radicalism. The people gathered around him are not just talking about music or dancing. They are debating politics, philosophy, and the future of their race. You lean against the doorframe and listen. This is the other side of the Harlem Renaissance, the intellectual rebellion that unfolded in parallel with the artistic one. While the jazz clubs and rent parties provided the soundtrack, rooms like this, as well as libraries, community halls and literary salons were the movement's intellectual engine. Here, the ideas that would define the era were forged in the fire of passionate debate. The conversation you're listening to is a heady mix of ideas. They are talking about the new Negro concept, a term popularized by the philosopher Alain Locke in his landmark 1925 anthology of the same name. It's a powerful idea of self-assertion, a conscious break from the old, subservient stereotypes of the past. It's a call for Black people to define themselves, to create their own art, and to demand their rightful place in American society. You can see how this idea resonates in the confident swagger of the dancers in the next room and the defiant pride of the musicians. But there are disagreements about what this new Negro should be. Someone in the group argues for the importance of high art, for mastering the European forms of literature and painting, to prove the intellectual equality of the race. This is the view often associated with figures like W.E.B. Du Bois, who promoted the idea of a talented tenth, an elite group of Black artists and intellectuals who would lead the race to a brighter future. Another person counters this argument fiercely. They argue that true Black art must be rooted in the folk culture of the masses, the blues, the spirituals, the stories and language of everyday working people like you. They believe that imitating white, European forms is a trap, a denial of the unique and powerful voice of the Black experience. This is a perspective championed by writers like Langston Hughes, whose poetry celebrated the beauty and resilience of ordinary Black life, using the rhythms of jazz and the blues in his verse. You listen, fascinated. This isn't an abstract academic debate. It's a conversation about the very soul of the community. What is the purpose of art? Is it to impress the white world, or is it to express the inner life of the Black world? Who is it for? The elite, talented tenth, or the people dancing at a rent party? The tension between these two ideas, art as propaganda for racial uplift versus art as a pure expression of the folk spirit, is one of the central creative conflicts of the Harlem Renaissance. The conversation shifts to politics. They talk about Marcus Garvey and his Universal Negro Improvement Association, which preached a message of Black nationalism, self-reliance, and a return to Africa. Garvey's movement was immensely popular with the working-class masses in Harlem, offering a vision of pride and power that was intoxicating. His massive parades down 7th Avenue were legendary spectacles of Black organization. Others in the room are more skeptical. They are socialists, arguing that the fundamental problem is not race but class. They believe that true liberation will only come when Black and white workers unite to overthrow the capitalist system that exploits them both. They hold their meetings on street corners, on soapboxes, trying to persuade the crowds that flock to hear them. What you are witnessing is a community buzzing with ideas. The Great Migration did not just bring people to Harlem. It brought together a critical mass of thinkers, dreamers, and radicals from all over the country and the Caribbean. The result was an explosion of intellectual and political ferment. In a single night in Harlem, you could hear a jazz band, see a Shakespeare play with a Black cast, listen to a Garveyite preacher, and stumble into a socialist debate. It was a place where every possible answer to the question of what it meant to be black in the 20th century was being proposed and fiercely argued. This intellectual vitality is the often overlooked foundation of the era. The glamour of the jazz clubs is the most famous part of the story, but it was sustained by this deep, serious engagement with the biggest questions of identity, art, and politics. The writers, artists, and musicians were not just creating, they were part of a larger conversation, a collective effort to understand their world and to imagine a new one. You don't have the formal education of some of the people in this room, but you understand the core of what they are talking about. You live it every day. You feel the pull of wanting to be seen as respectable and the simultaneous urge to celebrate the raw, joyful culture of the rent party. You feel the pride of Garveyism and the frustration of economic hardship that the socialists describe. You leave the room and head back toward the music, your mind buzzing with these new thoughts. The party no longer seems like just a party. It feels like a piece of a much larger, more complex puzzle. The dancer, the pianist, the poet, the political radical, they are all part of the same story, all contributing to the vibrant, contradictory, and brilliant moment in time known as the Harlem Renaissance. It was a revolution fought not with guns, but with ideas, with poems, and with the undeniable power of a stride piano in a crowded room. Drawn back by the magnetic pull of the music, you re-enter the main room. The intellectual debates of the front room fade into the background, replaced by a more visceral, physical form of expression. The jam session has reached a fever pitch. The pianist, cornetist, and clarinetist are locked in a tight, synergistic groove, pushing each other to new heights of invention. The energy they are generating is pure, uncut joy, and it has taken complete control of the dance floor. The room is a churning sea of bodies, a testament to the power of rhythm to unite and liberate. You are swept back into the heart of it, and this time the dancing feels different. It's less about polite, partnered movement and more about individual expression. The Lindy Hop is truly taking flight. You watch a couple in the center of the floor. They are performing what will become the signature move of the dance, the swing out. The man leads the woman out, she swivels, and they come back together in a seamless, fluid motion that perfectly matches the swing of the music. Then they break away. For a few bars of music, they are dancing separately, improvising their own flashy steps, kicks, swivels, and slides before reconnecting. It's a dance that is both a partnership and a celebration of individual creativity. It's a physical conversation, full of call and response, just like the music itself. It's athletic, energetic, and requires a level of skill and stamina that is breathtaking to watch. You feel a tap on your shoulder. It's the same young man you danced with earlier. He grins and, without a word, leads you into a small, clear space on the floor. The music is fast, a furious tempo that seems almost impossible to dance to. But he leads with a confident, easy grace, and you find yourself following, your body responding instinctively to the rhythm. You are not a professional dancer, but in this moment it doesn't matter. The spirit of the dance is infectious. The floor beneath you is slick with spilled drinks and the collective sweat of the dancers. The air is so thick with heat and humidity that it feels like you could swim through it. But these are not discomforts. They are part of the experience, badges of honor for having been in the heart of the storm. You lose all track of time. Your worries about your job, about the rent, about the exhaustion you will feel in the morning, they all evaporate. There is only the music, the movement, and the exhilarating feeling of being completely, incandescently alive. This is the emotional core of the Harlem Renaissance, the pure, unadulterated joy that fueled so much of its art. The poetry of Langston Hughes often tried to capture this feeling, the celebration of life in the face of hardship. The paintings of artists like Archibald Motley depicted these crowded, energetic scenes in vibrant, swirling colors. But to truly understand it, you have to feel it, to be in the middle of it, to let the sweat drip down your back and the rhythm take over your body. The dance is an act of defiance. In a world that seeks to control and confine black bodies, the explosive freedom of the Lindy Hop is a powerful political statement. It's a declaration of ownership over one's own physical self, a celebration of strength, grace, and creativity. It's a way of saying, you may control my labor during the day, but you cannot control my spirit. You cannot control my joy. As you dance, you see the faces of the other people in the room. You see smiles of pure, uninhibited pleasure. You see brows furrowed in concentration as they execute a difficult step. You see eyes closed in a moment of private ecstasy as the music hits a particularly sweet note. It's a community at play, and it's a beautiful thing to behold. This shared experience of joy is a powerful bonding agent, forging connections that will last long after the party is over. These are the moments that people will talk about for weeks, the stories that will become neighborhood legends. The musicians, feeding off the energy of the dancers, push themselves even further. The cornet player stands up, pointing his horn towards the ceiling, and lets out a long, high, piercing note that seems to hang in the air forever. The clarinetist responds with a frantic, bubbling cascade of notes. The pianist hammers out a thunderous chorus, his whole body rocking with the effort. It's a moment of pure, collective catharsis, a sonic explosion that seems to shake the very foundations of the building. When the song finally comes to a crashing end, the room erupts in a roar of applause, cheers, and whistles. The dancers are left breathless, their clothes soaked with sweat, leaning on each other for support, their faces beaming. You and your partner are laughing, gasping for air. There's a powerful sense of shared accomplishment, as if you have all just passed through some intense, transformative ritual together. You make your way to the window to catch your breath, your heart still pounding in your chest. The cool night air feels wonderful on your hot skin. Looking at the scene of joyful exhaustion around you, you realize that this is what human resilience looks like. It's not just about grimly enduring hardship. It's about the ability to create these pockets of intense, life-affirming joy. It's the understanding that celebration is not a frivolous luxury, but an essential act of survival, as necessary as food and shelter. The dance floor of the rent party is a sacred space, a place where the soul is healed and the spirit is recharged, ready to face whatever the world will throw at it next. The climax of the jam session seems to break the fever of the party. The frantic energy begins to subside, replaced by a warm, lingering glow. The musicians, physically spent, pack up their instruments. The pianist plays a few final, soft, bluesy chords, a gentle lullaby to ease the night towards its conclusion. The roar of the party softens to a contented hum. People begin to gather their things, to say their goodbyes. The magical, temporary world of the rent party is slowly dissolving, preparing to return to the reality of the coming day. You and your dance partner exchange a final, smiling nod. There's no need to exchange names or numbers. You have shared a moment of pure connection, and that is enough. It's a fleeting, anonymous intimacy that is part of the charm of city life. You might see him again on the street or at another party, or you might not. The memory of the dance is what will remain. You find the hosts of the party, your friend and their family, near the door. You thank them for the wonderful time. They look tired but happy. The bowl near the door, once empty, is now filled with coins and a few crumpled bills. It's a testament to the community's generosity. The rent will be paid. The crisis has been averted for another month. The party, in its most essential function, has been a success. You step out of the hot, crowded apartment and into the cool, quiet air of the stairwell. The contrast is immediate and striking. The descent down the 5 flights of stairs is a journey back to yourself, back to your own life. With each step, the sounds of the party fade, replaced by the profound silence of a city in the deepest hours of the night. When you emerge from the building onto the street, the world has been transformed. It is dawn. The sky to the east is beginning to lighten, a soft, pearly gray that silhouettes the rooftops of the tenements. The street, which was a river of humanity just a few hours ago, is now almost completely empty. The silence is broken only by the distant cooing of pigeons and the occasional rumble of an early morning delivery truck. This is a magical, liminal time in the city. It's the brief moment when the energy of the night has fully dissipated and the energy of the day has not yet begun. The air is cool and clean, washed by the night. You take a deep breath, the first truly fresh breath you've had in hours. The walk home through these quiet streets is a surreal and peaceful experience. Your footsteps echo in the silence. You see the city in a way that most people never do, stripped bare of its noise and its crowds. You pass by the darkened storefronts, the sleeping apartment buildings. You see a cat dart across an alleyway. A lone sanitation worker is sweeping the street with a large broom, the rhythmic scratching sound a lonely counterpoint to the silence. You see the milkman making his rounds with his horse-drawn cart, the clinking of the glass bottles a gentle, nostalgic sound. It feels like you are walking through a dream, a city holding its breath. This walk home is a time for reflection. The exhilarating sensations of the party, the music, the dancing, the heat, are still vibrating within you, but they are now accompanied by a growing sense of weariness. Your feet ache. Your body is heavy with fatigue. The harsh gin you drank is beginning to make your head throb. The magic of the night is meeting the cold, hard reality of the morning. In just a few short hours, you will have to be up and on your way to work, back to the scrubbing and the dusting and the invisibility. This is the fundamental duality of life for so many in Harlem. It's a constant oscillation between the transcendent joy of the night and the grinding hardship of the day. The Harlem Renaissance was not a permanent state of being. It was a series of fleeting, brilliant moments, carved out of a reality that was often bleak and unforgiving. The challenge is to hold on to the feeling of the night, to let it fuel you through the day. As you turn onto your own street, you see the first signs of the city waking up. A few lights are on in apartment windows. You see another domestic worker like yourself, leaving her building, her face set with the same weary determination you feel. The brief, magical truce of the dawn is ending. The daily struggle is about to begin anew. You reach your building and climb the familiar 5 flights of stairs, your legs heavy. You let yourself into your apartment as quietly as possible. Your mother is already asleep in her chair, having waited up for you. Your younger siblings are silent in their beds. The apartment is still and quiet. You look out your window at the air shaft, at the brick wall of the building next door. The glamour of the party feels a million miles away. This small, cramped room is your reality, and the day ahead is an unavoidable fact. The night was a beautiful rebellion, but the morning always wins. You don't bother to undress completely. You are too exhausted for that. You simply slip off your shoes, your aching feet grateful for the release, and hang your good dress carefully over the back of the chair. You want to preserve it, to keep it safe for the next time you need to feel beautiful. You wash your face with the cold water left in the basin. The chill, a welcome shock that clears some of the fog from your mind. Then you lie down on your lumpy mattress, pulling the coarse wool blanket up to your chin. The sounds of the building are beginning to stir again. The elevated train rumbles in the distance, a sound that now seems like a harbinger of the day to come rather than a memory of the day past. You hear the first coughs and movements from the neighboring apartments. The cycle is beginning again. Your body aches with a profound weariness, a bone-deep fatigue that comes from a night of celebration followed by too little sleep. You know that getting through your workday today will be an act of sheer will. Lying there in the dim, gray light, you reflect on the night. It feels like a distant dream already, a vibrant flash of color and sound in a life that is often monochrome. Was it worth it? The exhaustion, the aching feet, the impending struggle of the day ahead. The answer is an unequivocal yes. The party was not just an escape. It was a form of nourishment, a transfusion of spirit. The music, the dancing, the shared laughter, these are the things that make the hardship bearable. They are the fuel that keeps you going. You realize that the creativity of Harlem is not just something that happens on a stage or in a book. It is an essential strategy for survival. It's the ingenuity of the woman who can make a feast out of scraps. It's the artistry of the pianist who can make a beat-up piano sound like an orchestra. It's the style of the young man who can turn a simple suit into a statement of defiance. It's the resilience of the dancer who can find freedom and joy in a crowded, sweaty room. Art, in this context, is not a luxury. It is a weapon against despair. This is the most profound truth of the Harlem Renaissance, the one that is so often missed in the romanticized histories. The explosion of art was not a symptom of a golden age of prosperity and ease. It was a direct response to a reality of poverty, discrimination, and struggle. It was the defiant assertion of humanity in a world that constantly sought to deny it. The poets, musicians, and artists were not just decorating their world. They were creating a new one, a world of the mind and spirit where they could be free, proud, and fully themselves. You close your eyes, but sleep doesn't come immediately. The rhythms of the stride piano are still echoing in your head. You can still feel the sensation of the dance floor moving beneath your feet. You can still see the faces of the people around you, united in a moment of collective joy. These memories are a treasure, a private store of wealth that no one can take from you. They are what you will draw upon when you are scrubbing floors in a silent Park Avenue apartment, a ghost in someone else's life. They will remind you of who you are, of the vibrant community you belong to, and of the enduring power of the human spirit to create beauty in the darkest of places. The Harlem Renaissance was not just a historical event. It was a testament to this power. It demonstrated that a community, when pushed to the margins, can create a culture so powerful and so vital that it changes the entire country. The jazz, the blues, the literature, the style, it all flowed out of Harlem and into the American mainstream, shaping the nation's cultural identity in ways that are still being felt today. It was an act of profound and lasting creation, born not in comfort but in the crucible of hardship. And you, a humble participant in a single night celebration, are a part of that incredible story. You are a keeper of the flame. And so, as you lie there, drifting on the edge of a much-needed sleep, the sharp edges of the night begin to soften. The memory of the party, once a vivid, pulsing thing, now becomes a gentle, flowing current. The sound of the piano fades into a soft, rhythmic murmur, a soothing lullaby from the past. The images of the dancers blur, their energetic movements slowing into a graceful, dreamlike ballet. The harshness of the gin, the ache in your feet, the chill of the morning air, it all dissolves into a single, warm feeling of peace. You can appreciate now, from the comfort of your own bed, the incredible strength it took to live that life, to work all day in service to others, and then to find the energy to dance all night in service to the soul, to create such enduring beauty out of such profound struggle. It gives you a deeper appreciation for the simple comforts you enjoy. A soft mattress, a quiet room, the simple luxury of a hot shower, the freedom to rest without the pressing fear of the coming day. The legacy of Harlem in the 1920s is not just in the art it left behind, but in the enduring lesson of its resilience. It's a reminder that the human spirit has an infinite capacity to find light in the darkness, to create joy in the face of sorrow, and to build a community that can hold it all together. Now let the last echoes of the jazz fade away. Let the quiet of the dawn settle over you. There is no train to catch, no floor to scrub. There is only the stillness of your room, the gentle rise and fall of your own breath. Let the story of that night become a soft, distant whisper, a reminder of the strength and beauty that came before. Let the past sing you to sleep. Rest now. You've earned it.